What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and as you all know, we keep a ton of data behind the scenes here on the Pika Pika Papa channel. We are always trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on and bring you the latest and greatest in what's happening with all of these price trends here in this space, because things move very fast. And I think today's video is going to be a great example of how quickly things can move in both directions, both up and down. Now, you know, on this channel, every single month, we aggregate the value of the top 20 singles cards from the XY era, the Sun and Moon era, the Sword and Shield era, the Scarlet and Violet era, and now I have started that process for the Mega Series as well. And we've already done a deep dive into Sword and Shield. The other day, we did a deep dive into the Scarlet and Violet era, where we saw how the individual sets and how everything's been moving in that space. But today, we're going to look at some of these singles cards and some cards that I think, are a little bit flying under the radar right now, because again, what's happening right now is not unprecedented, but we are certainly seeing a pattern evolve, which we have not seen in the past at least happen in terms of which it's doing right now. So with that being said, let's take a look at exactly what I'm talking about. So what you have before you here is, if you follow this channel, you've already seen this a couple times, so I'm going to talk about it really quickly, but on the left is how the Scarlet and Violet prices, those aggregate values of those top 20 singles cards, have been moving since April of 2025. On the right is Sword and Shield. And the biggest call out is we went through a period of price reduction, which, as you can see in the Sword and Shield graph on the right, we have seen a couple different periods where that has happened. However, we knew, or at least we had a very strong inclination in August when we saw that those declines started to really, almost hit flat. We felt like the market was going to turn. And what have we seen? In September and October, both Scarlet and Violet and the Sword and Shield generation have seen a very strong uptick in terms of singles cards prices, which we had a strong feeling was going to happen. What is different this time versus previous times, and I cannot wait to show you some great examples here in a minute, what's different now versus previous times is how aggressively right out of the gate the singles cards have switched from going down in price to going up in price. If you look right here, these are the last two times we have seen this type of really aggressive back-to-back month of singles cards price growth. And as you can see, those blue boxes follow after a couple of positive months, which kind of led up into it, right? If you look at the way from March of 2024 and April of 2024, the growth in those top 20 singles cards in the Sword and Shield era was 1.69%. Then 6.77%, and then things got crazy, right? Then it went up 35.69% and then 11.38%. And after that, things started to cool off a little bit, right? Like, the cards can only stay so hot for so long before everybody in the market starts to kind of take a step back and say, whoa, 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 these prices are getting a little high, and things start to cool off. Same thing in January and February of 2025, right? Like from November and December of 2024, we saw up 6.38%, up 10.34%. Then in January and February, big jumps, up almost 14% in January, and then up over 20% in February. And then again, we saw a period of cooling off come after that. So here we are, September and October. We saw two super aggressive months of price growth right off the bat. And now we're going to see what is happening, not only with some of the chase cards, but as I said, we're going to identify some cards on here that I think, if the market starts to cool off a little bit, either their downside is protected or they're already flying under the radar enough that if the market starts to cool down a little bit, the prices are going to be somewhat insulated from a broader market downturn. So with that being said, obviously we do a ton of data dives behind the scenes before we get into the individual cards. If you get into this video, if you're having fun, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. Those two small things go so far in helping my small channel out, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. So the most exciting thing for me is, a lot of times here on this channel, we talk about how the chase cards can be a leading indicator for what the broader market is going to do. So we're going to start off this video, before we look at the cards that I've got my eye on, we're going to start off by looking at these three chase cards right here. Now, you have the Charizard from 151, you got the Magikarp from Paldea Evolve, you have the Bubble Mew. We're talking about three of the biggest and baddest cards in the Scarlet and Violet era. And take a look at what has happened recently in terms of pricing. All three of these cards are starting to show some cracks after some just ridiculous price growth. I mean, look at how aggressively that bright blue line went up over the last month for all three of these cards. Now, on the back end, it's starting to come back down. So for me, when I think about this, in previous times where we've seen these price growths, we had a couple months to kind of lead up into it. We had a period of ramping up before we saw those big price jumps. Here in this cycle, we've seen the big price jumps on the front end. So it looks like we might see a quick up and followed by a little bit of a quick down. So really something to take note of. Now, with that being said, let's look at some of the cards that are not chase cards that might have some opportunity to give us some gains into the future. And the first card is absolutely one of my favorite cards in the Scarlet and Violet era. And I've talked about this card ad nauseum. You know that I love Surging Sparks. I think as a set overall, it is going to do very, very well. I think it's one of the top sets in the Scarlet and Violet era. And this Latios card right here is no exception. It's been chilling at the $25 price point for quite a while. And I just kept saying, man, I feel like this card, whenever Surging Sparks is realized to be what it is, like a great set with awesome cards, incredible artwork, this is going to be one of the cards that takes off. And as you can see, really ever since the set came out, this card has been down 33%. It started off right at $50, came all the way down to $25, but it is starting to work its way back up. So it is up to $33 right now. Still love this at sub $35. I still think this card in the long run is going to do really, really well. So this is the first card I wanted to kick off with because I am a huge, huge fan of this Latios card. Next one on the list right here. Okay, so this is the Eevee Pokemon Center exclusive stamped promos from those PC ETBs that you can buy out there. And when you compare this to some of the other Pokemon Center stamped promos that you have that come from those super sought after, really hard to get PC ETBs, even though this is a $100 card, it is, I mean, there's $150 ones, there's $200 ones from Obsidian Flames, right? So when you think about this, Prismatic Evolutions is going to be one of the very best sets, if not the best set, from the Scarlet and Violet generation. You are going to have multiple cards over the $200 price point. You're going to have multiple over $300, and that Umbreon card is destined to be well over $1,000 card in the long run. So when you think about that, that Pokemon Center exclusives ETB is going to be worth a ton of money in the future. I guarantee you that this stamped promo card is going to follow suit. Now, it looks like it's leveling right off at $100, and $100 is a lot of money for a Pokemon card. Don't get me wrong, that's not lost on me. But it wasn't long ago that this card was at the $50 price point. And when I think about the fact that it's an Eevee, when I think about the set that it comes from, when I think about how high of a price I think those, Prismatic Evolutions PC ETBs are going to be at in the long run, I think even though it's $100 right now, I think this card has a lot of upside far into the future. Next one we're talking about right here, sticking with Prismatic Evolution promo cards, and I just cannot get off my soapbox on this one. I am such a huge fan of it. I spend a ton of time looking at older promos. I look at promo cards from the XY era, from the Sun and Moon era, from the Sword and Shield era, and as much time as I spend looking at them, you start to notice different patterns in terms of artwork and names and all of that, and this one just checks every single box for me. This is from the Super Premium collection, right? So obviously that thing has a very bright future ahead of it. And if you look at it over the last 6 months, this card is only up 5%. And if you compare that to a lot of its peers, most cards are up far beyond that 5% price point. So for whatever reason, the market hasn't fallen in love with this card yet. But for me, that's even more reason for you and I and all of the other Pokemon collecting maniacs out there to really love this card. Again, $38, not a small entry point, but I do think the downside is really well protected. We all know how much the hobby love promos. We all know the bright future that the box it comes from has in front of it. Eevee's wildly popular. The artwork is unique and awesome. Like check, 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 check. Everything that I could look for in a card is here. And again, it's only up 5% over the last 6 months. Absolutely love this card and think it is a fantastic opportunity to get in. Next one that we're talking about, I don't normally highlight cards from brand new sets because the prices are far too volatile, you know what I mean? And we just need more product to be ripped and things to come out. But Destined Rivals, as far as I'm concerned, is in a very unique space. I think Destined Rivals absolutely crushed it from top to bottom. I think that there's at least 10 or 15 cards in here that I would happily have in my personal collection. And this Ethan's Typhlosion is one of them. But I also think from an upside perspective, even though it's brand new and even though it's still probably has a lot of volatility left in it. It is down 28% versus where it started off. The market right out the gate thought this was going to be a $50 card. It's dropped all the way down to $35. Typhlosion has a lot of really high-end cards. If you go back into the history of Pokemon cards, like there are some really, really awesome Typhlosion cards, really high price points attached to it. Ethan, listen, dude trainers get no love, which is fine, but Ethan is one of the ones who absolutely has performed well in the past. You got both of them combined here with amazing artwork. Destined Rivals is a phenomenal set. It is going to be the #1 regular series set from the Scarlet and Violet era. Again, when you think about all of the the boxes that I like to check when I'm trying to understand if I think a card has the opportunity for great long-term upside. All of the boxes are checked with this one. Now, I would not be opposed to sitting on the sidelines for a while. We're going to talk about a couple cards further on in this video that maybe now is not the time. Maybe it's just the time to keep an eye on it. And hey, if the price starts to flatten out, you start to find those support lines forming. Maybe then is the time to get in. But even with all of that, I mean, coming in at $30, $34, you know, I think this is a really awesome opportunity. And at the end of the day, no matter what, it's a stunning card to add to your collection from an incredible set. So awesome. Love this card. Can't say enough good things about it, and guarantee this is going to be in my collection very soon. Next one, you know that I've been a huge fan of this Lillie's Clefairy card for quite a while. I think Journey Together was kind of caught in this perfect storm. It came out. I don't think the market was as in love with it as people had thought they would be. And then the market was already in the middle of, you know, these singles cards coming downwards. We've been following the way the prices have been trending and Journey Together. So anyways, it was kind of like what I said about Silver Tempest, right? I felt like Silver Tempest followed the exact same path. It came out, the market was turning down. It was available for a long time at MSRP. And now we're starting to see a lot of those Silver Tempest cards really just take off. Even when we see some softness in other Sword and Shield era sets, we're seeing those Silver Tempest cards perform really well. Well, I think Journey Together is going to be a similar process. I think Journey Together has a lot of upside. And again, this is a very expensive card coming in at $165. Probably not pulling the trigger right now. I was very fortunate. I picked up one of these at the $150 price point. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I would like to have another one or two in the personal collection, to be honest with you. I think my kids really enjoy the card and the artwork. And I also think in the long run, this is obviously the chase card from Journey Together. I think Journey Together as a whole is going to perform well. Is it a top 2 or 3 set from Scarlet and Violet? Absolutely not. But what have we seen from Sun and Moon? What have we seen from Sword and Shield is that any of those top 6 regular series sets in the long run perform very, very well. So I think this card has a very bright future. And Lillie is obviously one of the most popular trainers out there. The card's adorable. Again, I just think there's a very bright future, and you're buying it at 6.5% below where it was 6 months ago. But I am going to keep an eye on it and see if it continues to drop down a little bit. Next card on the list, and this was one I showed you right out of the gate, and I gotta say that this is a card which, again, I've talked a lot about it over the last couple years. Do you remember when this card was stuck at the $100 price point? It was a $100 card for like a year, which was wild, and then all of a sudden it saw this really aggressive price jump. It got up to like $270, $280, and then it immediately fell back down, and it was hovering at the $200 price point, and we kept saying on this channel over and over and over again, like, I love this card sub $200. When it was in the 190, 180 range, like, it was an absolute steal. 151 is a set of, I don't know, it's one of the best sets in recent generations. It's just so incredibly deep from top to bottom. People love it. The sealed products are going for such an insane amount of money. Like, there's so much to love about that set. Now, you do have to remember that the pull rate for this card was very favorable. So there are going to be a decent number of these out on the secondary market, and that's what's keeping the price below that ridiculous like $1,000 price point. Guaranteed, if this had the pull rate of the Umbreon in Prismatic Evolutions, this is a $1,000 card all day. But very favorable pull rates. Lots of them out there in the wild, but do remember that the gem rates were absolutely abysmal. So really low gem rates from really popular Pokemon cards do have a tendency to drive raw card prices up. So with all of that in mind, again, this is coming down off of a $300 high. This is one I certainly have an eye on. I'm going to keep an eye on this. If it continues to drop down, I'm in love with this card below 250 bucks. Remember, every month that goes by, 151 gets further and further in the rearview mirror. It is over 2 years old at this point, and I just think the set as a whole, a lot of those top cards have big opportunities. So if this continues to fall, if it gets caught up in some type of broader market downturn and you haven't added it to your collection yet, man, I know it's a lot of money, but this card is just going to be fantastic in the long run. So I'm keeping an eye on it. We'll have to see if it drops below 250 bucks, but either way, such a stud card. Absolutely love this one. Next one here is not one that we're talking about, to be honest. So this is the chase card from Paradox Rift, and I want you to think about this, obviously. So, you know, you got the Groudon right here, which is awesome artwork. Don't get me wrong. I love the artwork on this card. I love the way the red and the blue and the exploding volcanoes in the background. And, you know, everything about this card is really awesome, and it checks in at $92. But the reason I wanted to frame up my next card with this card is because I do think from an artwork perspective, and obviously from a character perspective, I think there's some similarities, but the card card that I'm really in love with right now is the Tyranitar from Paldean Evolved, right? So you know how much I love this card. I think that set as a whole is going to be either number 2 or number 3 in terms of the overall regular series sets from Scarlet and Violet. This artwork is phenomenal. We have seen Tyranitar have very, very, very strong showings in terms of pricing for big chase cards in the past. Obviously, there's an alt art one from Battle Styles, and that card is doing really well. We see some of the older ones that are doing really well, and when you think about it, the number 2 card and possibly a top 3 set from the Scarlet and Violet era is sitting at $70 right now. And again, this thing is well over 2 years old at this point. We are way past what we would expect to see as a reprint window. So I think this card is going to continue to do very, very well. Now, this is another one I'm approaching with a little bit of trepidation, only because if you see, remember those light blue bar graphs that go up and down, those represent buying and selling volume. And you can see not long ago, there was a big spike in one of those light blue bar graphs, which means either a person or group of people went onto TCG Player and bought a whole lot of these in a short amount of time, and that can artificially inflate the prices for a short period. So as you can see, this card shot all the way up to $85. It is on the downswing now, working its way down to $70. But no matter what, if this card starts dropping again, it was at a $50 card for a very long time, but if it gets down into the $60 range or something like that, I mean, I would be picking this up all day, twice on Sunday, because the gem rate's abysmally low. The set is obviously one of the top ones. Tyranitar has a history of very strong pricing, and because of all of that, I think this card is an awesome pickup for any type of collection. So with that being said, those are the Scarlet and Violet cards that I've got my eye on. I think this is a really interesting time in the market. I think hopefully we're going to see some prices coming down and we can get some awesome cards at some value that we haven't seen in a very long time. But no matter what, you know, we're going to continue to keep the data flowing. We're going to continue to keep you updated with your finger on the pulse of what's going on as best as we can. And if you're into all of that, hit that subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. Those 2 small things go a long, long way in helping my small channel out, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. All right, everybody, I will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.